2025 Shocking Energy Crisis. What you need to know now for a rocky year ahead. The air was thick with unease, a palpable tension that crackled like static electricity. A looming darkness hovered over the bustling city, casting long shadows on the faces of hurried pedestrians. No one saw it coming, an energy crisis that had quietly sparked chaos in their homes and hearts. If whispers of the unthinkable could be believed, 2025 would bring unimaginable hardships, leaving families in the dark, both literally and metaphorically. It all began with barely a hint power fluctuations that left lights flickering ominously before plunging entire neighborhoods into darkness. People barely had time to react. Reports flooded in. Energy prices soaring, gas supplies dwindling, and fridges filled with spoiled food. Rumors tinged with dread hinted at failed transformers, cracked pipelines, and desperate workers scrambling to hold everything together. Tonight's headline news blared with an eerie sense of urgency. Power outages affect millions. And then came the whispers about an underground energy cartel, supposedly hoarding resources. Bizarre sightings of black SUVs around shut-down facilities fed the rumor mill. Who were these shadowy figures lurking just beyond the edge of perception? Were they the puppeteers pulling the strings of an imminent crisis, or simple hoarders preparing for something even more sinister? The question hung heavy in the air like a storm cloud, threatening to burst. As cell phone batteries drained and generators fell silent, communities rallied, united by fear and curiosity. They gathered in dimly lit living rooms, the flickering light of candles barely illuminating the tension etched onto their faces. Children clung to their parents, eyes wide with fear, as adults whispered about strange lights in the sky over the closed-down power plants. Was it true? Had they really seen flashes? What could that possibly mean? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As uncertainty stewed in kitchens and backyards, a quiet woman named Alice, known to most only as the busybody of the block, ventured out one night, determined to uncover the truth. Armed with nothing but a flashlight and sheer will, she slipped into the shadows, her heart pounding. Each creak of the old wooden floorboards in her home echoed like the ticking of a clock counting down to something ominous. Driven by a mix of curiosity and dread, Alice found herself drawn to the abandoned power plant that once echoed with life. The moonlight glinted off broken windows, revealing silhouettes of what could only be described as figures dancing in the shadows. Was it just her imagination? Or were people gathering under the veil of night, conspiring about the dark turns that 2025 had taken? As she stood frozen against the wall, half hidden, a sudden burst of laughter erupted, a rich, booming sound that sent chills down her spine. The last thing she expected was to overhear anything concrete, but the fragments of hushed conversations sent her pulse racing. What were they planning? Would the city ever return to the way it was? Would anyone remember what it felt like to flip a switch and have the lights come on? Or was that a forgotten luxury of the past? With every ominous question swirling in her head, she inched closer, the shadows swallowing her whole. Alice's breath caught in her throat as she edged closer to the gathering, her heart thudding like a drumbeat in her ears. She flicked her flashlight down to give herself a moment's reassurance, the beam slicing through the darkness to reveal chipped concrete and scattered debris. Each step felt like a leaf on the wind, a risk, perhaps even a reckless one. But the gnawing curiosity pushed her forward, raw adrenaline coursing through her veins. The laughter she had heard earlier bubbled up again, now joined by hushed voices, simmering with excitement and dread. They weren't just chatting, they were plotting. The urgency in their tone sent a shiver down her spine. She pressed herself against the wall, breath held tight, desperately trying to make sense of their muffled words. The shipment arrives tomorrow. We need to secure the perimeter. A voice ordered, steady and commanding. Another replied with palpable fear. But what if they find out? We can't afford to get caught now. Alice's heart raced. Shipment? What shipment? Were they truly stockpiling energy resources? The pieces of a sinister puzzle were falling into place, and the chilling realization gripped her: these weren't just petty thieves. They were part of something much larger, a network manipulating the city's fate. Suddenly, she felt the unmistakable sensation of being watched. Alice's breath quickened as she strained to look around, fully aware of the risk that came with her growing knowledge. Just as she shifted, the beam of her flashlight betrayed her position, illuminating the gathering for just a heartbeat. "You! Who's there?" A sharp voice rang out, slicing through the stillness. Panic surged. She had to get out. Fear steeled her legs as she turned to retreat, her instincts kicking in. But just as she started to back away, she stumbled against a loose rock. It skidded across the ground and all eyes turned to her. What was that? Another voice shouted, suspicion lacing its words. Alice's mind raced. She could run, but they'd heard her. Before she could think, she bolted down a narrow alley, her heart pounding louder with each footfall against the pavement. She could hear them behind her, footsteps pounding in relentless pursuit. Could they catch her? What would they do if they did? The fear twisted like a knife as she scanned for a place to hide. As she turned a corner, she ducked into a small alcove, pressing herself against the cool, rough stone, trying to quiet her gasping breaths. Shadows danced around her, the noise of the group fading. She strained to listen, her heart still thundering like a wild horse. And then silence. There was no sign of them. Had she lost them? Alice peered out, dread-filled eyes searching the dark expanse before her. In that moment she realized something much larger was at play. The people at the power plant weren't just fighting for resources. They were part of a war one inching closer to engulfing everyone in the city. Just then the unmistakable roar of engines filled the air. A convoy of black SUVs materialized from the night like specters, rolling slowly past her hiding spot. Who were they? Were they the cartel? Her breath caught again, but this time it was from fear. She couldn't just stand there. It was time to go home and warn everyone. But as she turned to escape, new figures appeared from the shadows, a mix of men and women, faces obscured by masks, blocking her path with a determined stance. Alice's heart raced as they advanced, words hanging on the tip of her tongue, caught between flight and confrontation. "Let us see what you know, little mouse." One of them sneered, their eyes glinting with malicious curiosity. Was this her end? Would she become just another victim swallowed whole by the darkness that loomed over 2025? The heavy weight of uncertainty pressed down on her. She had ventured into the shadows. Would she emerge unscathed? The metallic taste of fear flooded her senses as she took a tentative step back. One fleeting moment passed, and she knew she had a choice to make. The truth lay right in front of her. But it could come at an unimaginable cost. Yet, amid the chaos, a flicker of defiance ignited her spirit. Would she let them take her without a fight? In the heart-pounding silence of the night, Alice took a deep breath, bracing herself for what lay ahead. But the secrets she uncovered would have consequences she could hardly begin to fathom. Alice stood frozen, trapped between fear and fight. The masked figures loomed closer, eyes glinting with malevolent intrigue. The tension in the air was thick enough to slice through, and she could feel the weight of their stares, each question lingering like poison. "Speak!" The same voice hissing with menace. "What do you know about the shipment?" In that moment, Alice felt her heart drop. If she told them, would it mean betrayal? Would they kill her right here for what she'd seen? But if she kept silent, would they believe she was harmless? Panic twisted in her gut as she weighed her options. I don't know anything." Her voice trembled, but she forced the words out, desperate to buy time. One of the figures stepped forward, his tall frame imposing against the low light. "Liar," he growled, his voice like gravel. "You were eavesdropping. You heard us." Her mind raced, searching for a way to escape. The pounding footsteps of their convoy echoed in her ears, a sinister reminder of the chaos surrounding her. If they were truly part of something dangerous, anything she said could cost her life. "Maybe we should make her talk," another masked figure suggested, cracking his knuckles menacingly. The chilling sound sent another wave of dread crashing over her. Alice's lungs tightened. This was it. She couldn't be a victim. A tiny spark of courage ignited within her. "Wait, I can help you. I know about the power outages in the city. I can get close to the intel you need." The faces narrowed, suspicion mingling with curiosity. There was a flicker of hesitation, and she seized the moment. Let me prove it. You need someone who can get information without raising alarms. I'm your girl. Why should we trust you? The imposing figure demanded, crossing his arms, still wary. Because you don't have many options left, she replied, her voice steadier now. I overheard you. I know the shipment is crucial to your operations. And I also know that the authorities are closing in. You won't make it without a guide. Or an inside source. A tense silence filled the alley, thick with uncertainty. The masked figures exchanged glances, weighing her words. Before they could respond, a loud explosion vibrated the ground beneath them, echoing from the direction of the power plant. Alice flinched, her heart racing even faster. Time is running out. We have to move now. The men hesitated, glancing back toward the sound, then at each other. Finally, the leader nodded, his grip tightening on a baton. All right, Mouse. You've bought yourself some time. But know this. One wrong move and it'll be your last. With that, he gestured for her to step forward, and Alice found herself reluctantly joining their ranks. The adrenaline surged as they moved through the shadows, the chaos of the city behind them. She could hardly process the decision she had just made as they slipped further into the night. Adrenaline began to lead the way. She was in deep now. Intrepid but terrified. She thought about the people she'd left behind. Would she ever see them again? While navigating the labyrinth of dark streets, she glanced back at the masked figures. What type of organization was she now aligning with? What was their endgame? Before she could ponder more, a sudden commotion erupted behind them. Screams. Glass shattering. The unmistakable sound of gunfire. Alice's heart sank. What's happening? She shouted, eyes wide with fear. They've found us. The leader barked, urgency dripping from his voice. Run. She took off, racing down the alley with her heart hammering wildly. But what she didn't know was this chaos was only the beginning. As they darted down the winding streets, a new storm of chaos loomed just ahead. Alice had entered a world of shadows, but she was about to plummet into something darker than she could ever imagine. Would she come out alive? Or become just another casualty in the unruly game for power in 2025? The night was far from over and danger lurked around every corner. Alice sprinted into the darkness, every nerve in her body screaming. The deafening gunfire echoed behind her, footsteps pounding against the pavement like a clock ticking toward doom. Shadows loomed, warping into menacing shapes, and she felt that familiar gnawing knot in her stomach. This was all spiraling out of control. Turn here, the leader shouted, veering sharply into an alley that branched off the main street. His voice was sharp, urgent. She followed, trying to keep her breath steady. They tore past the flickering light of a street lamp, and she caught a glimpse of the translucent fear etched in the leader's eyes. As they ducked deeper into the night, Alice's thoughts raced. Trust? Felt like a foreign concept right now. She didn't know these men. They were just as likely to turn on her as they were to hide her from whatever chaos was pursuing them. The shadows seemed to pulse around her, threatening to swallow her whole. Faster! The imposing figure urged, glancing back anxiously. Their pursuers were relentless, and she could hear shouts growing louder behind them, mixed with the grind of boots on concrete. Alice's mind raced, taking in her surroundings. They were in a section of the city she barely knew, streets twisted and narrow, crumbling graffiti-covered walls looming over them. She felt like a mouse in a maze, desperately searching for an exit that wouldn't lead to a trap. Suddenly, the group skidded to a halt. The leader pressed a finger against his mask, signaling silence. The hush fell like a heavy blanket over them. Alice strained her ears, catching the distant echo of pursuit and her own rapid heartbeat. What now? She whispered, panic creeping in. The shadows flickered again, uncertain. We need to lay low, the leader murmured, scanning their surroundings. There's a safe house nearby, a friend of ours. It won't be far. Safe house? She echoed, unsure of how much she believed him. Who's your friend? He cast her a hard look. You ask a lot of questions. Get in line or be part of the problem. Alice opened her mouth, ready to retort. But the air crackled with tension and she shut it again. She didn't want to find out what part of the problem meant as they moved again. The sounds of chaos began fading into the background, but the unease inside her thrummed loudly. What was at stake? The city lay in tatters, and she was navigating a web of darkness. Just ahead, a narrow door appeared, almost concealed in the dim light. The leader's hand shot out and he knocked sharply. Footsteps shuffled from inside, and a sliver of light peeked through the crack. "Who is it?" came a voice, gravelly yet cautious. "Cyrus," the leader replied, his tone sharper now. "Let us in. We're not safe." The door creaked open, revealing a squat man with piercing green eyes. He stared at Alice for a heartbeat longer than required before stepping aside. They shuffled inside, the door slamming shut behind them with a finality that sent a shiver down Alice's spine. Inside, the air was thick, saturated with tension and the scent of something acrid. A dim bulb flickered overhead, casting ominous shadows on peeling wallpaper. Boxes were piled haphazardly, remnants of a life long disturbed. Alice felt claustrophobic, the tight space closing in as her thoughts spiraled with every breath. "What's the plan?" she asked, trying to steady her voice, but it quivered nonetheless. Cyrus eyed her, sizing her up. "You want a plan? Then you need to tell us exactly what you know about the shipment," he declared. Crossing his arms, Alice's heart raced again. This was the moment. If she shared what she had overheard, it might put her at risk, but refusing could be equally dangerous. She could send them in the wrong direction, or reveal the very secrets that would render her a target. What was the right choice? Which side would she really be on? The knot of dread tightened within her as the room seemed to shrink. The danger she thought was behind her had only begun to evolve, and a heavy weight of uncertainty pressed down like a storm cloud ready to burst. "Please," she whispered, fear choking her words, "you have to trust me." But would they? Would they see her as a lifeline or a liability? There was a silence thick with tension, and somewhere outside, the murmur of chaos continued to swell. Was her choice about to screw them all? Alice's pulse thundered in her ears, and as she searched the faces around her, the uncertainty deepened. Cyrus's eyes narrowed, a mix of calculation and skepticism that made her stomach churn. The flickering light overhead cast eerie patterns across the room, as if the building itself were alive, breathing in sync with the tension surrounding them. "Tell us," Cyrus insisted, leaning in closer, his voice low and urgent. Whatever you heard could change everything. A part of her screamed to hold back, to protect whatever scraps of information she had left. But the raw terror in Cyrus's gaze was undeniable. The city outside was a war zone, and every moment spent here was a moment wasted. "I overheard something about a shipment." The words slipped out before she could drag them back. "They're moving something dangerous. I don't know what, but it's not just goods, it's people too." Cyrus straightened, eyes widening slightly. "People?" he repeated, as if the weight of her words shifted the ground beneath them. "Yes, something illegal. I overheard a deal being made at the harbor." Felt wrong. Her voice shook. They weren't just criminals, they were organized, ready to take the city apart piece by piece. The leader, Cyrus, exchanged glances with the other men, the air crackling with new energy. "And you didn't think this was important enough to share before?" he shot back. "You could have put us all at risk." "Stop," Alice suddenly erupted, feeling the sting of betrayal tower above her like the dim grids of flickering lights. "I wasn't trying to hide it. I just didn't realize what I had gotten mixed up in until now." The accusations hung heavy, and the heavy atmosphere thickened, her heart hammering against her ribs. The walls felt like they were closing in, the weight of their judgment suffocating her. A ripple of uncertainty passed through the group while outside, violent murmurs spilled into the silence they tried to cultivate within. "Enough," another man interjected, stepping between them. He was wiry, and despite the fear swirling in the room, there was a calmness in his voice. "We need to figure out how this shipment fits into the chaos playing out in the city." "What's your name?" Alice asked, trying to find clarity in the turmoil. "Dex," he said, glancing toward Cyrus. "I believe you, Alice. We shouldn't be turning on each other when the real threat is just outside these walls." An uneasy alliance formed in the air, but Alice could feel the debate stirring within their minds. Was she a pawn in their game or a crucial piece of information they couldn't risk tossing aside? Suddenly, a loud crash came from outside, followed by frantic shouts. The tension in the room shifted, morphing from distrust to something more primal. "Cyrus, what the hell?" Dex shouted, eyes darting toward the door. We don't have time for this. Stay quiet. Cyrus hissed back, moving toward the window. The faint glow of emergency lights cast bizarre shadows in the alley. Alice's body vibrated with urgency as she caught a glimpse of movement outside. Figures in dark clothing moved through the alley like race, searching, prowling. Her gut twisted. They weren't just enemies they were hunting. They were drawing closer. What do we do? Alice asked, her voice almost a whisper, caught in an undertone of sheer horror. Before anyone could respond, a heavy thud shook the door, rattling the old frame. They weren't just searching for them anymore. They were coming inside. Cyrus stepped back, fear flashing in his eyes, just as a second pounding echoed against the wood. In this moment of uncertainty, one thought blossomed in her mind: where were they taking them, and really how far were they willing to go to keep their secret safe? The door bucked again, and she barely had time to think before everything spun out of control. With nothing but a breathless silence and a heavy dread weighing down all around her, she realized she had to make a choice: fight or flight. Now! Cyrus yelled, and they moved as one, hearts racing, not knowing if this was the end or merely the beginning of a darker path yet to unfold. But as they rushed toward the back of the cramped room, the door splintered, crashing open, and the shadows poured in. Would they escape? Or was this the end for all of them? The dread coiled tighter as her mind raced with questions, each more haunting than the last. The air exploded with chaos as the door gave way. Dark figures surged into the room like a wave crashing against the shore, faces obscured by hoods and masks. Alice's heart dropped. Panic spiraled through her body. They had no time to hesitate. Run! Cyrus shouted, pulling Alice by the arm, his grip firm and urgent. Together they sprinted into the shadowy corridor, footsteps echoing like thunder against the concrete. Dex and the others scrambled behind them, the murmur of panic morphing into frantic shouts. Where do we go? Dex called out, glancing over his shoulder. Fear flickered in his eyes. Just keep moving. Cyrus yelled back, his voice strained. Alice could hear the thumping of her heart, drowning out every other sound. They raced down the narrow passage, the flickering light above casting grotesque shadows across the walls. The fear of capture weighed heavy, pushing them faster. But in the back of her mind, a question burned: who were these people that hunted them like animals? Alice glimpsed a glimmer of silver. A knife perhaps glinted menacingly in the light. With every step, the dark figures behind them grew bolder, their swift movements calculated. Alice stumbled, almost falling, but Cyrus yanked her back to her feet. Stay close, he barked, his voice cutting through the tension. They turned a corner and skidded to a halt. The end of the corridor loomed before them, blocked by a solid door, heavy and forbidding. No way out. An icy fear clutched at her stomach, the sweat slick on her palms. Someone help me with this, Cyrus demanded, pushing against the door. Dex and another man joined him, heaving the door, but it wouldn't budge. They were trapped. Here. There's a window. Alice spotted a grimy panel above them, barely big enough for a person to fit through. Hope flared momentarily in her chest, but they would have to act quickly. Lift me, she shouted, adrenaline surging through her veins. Without waiting for a response, she jumped, grabbing hold of the ledge. Her fingers slipped. She winced as she felt the rough edge bite into her skin. Come on, Dex urged, getting behind her. He pushed her up with a determined thrust, finally giving her the chance to squeeze through. She gasped as she tumbled onto the gritty rooftop, the night air hitting her like a slap to the face. Quick, Alice. Help me. Cyrus's voice filtered from below. She turned to see him being pulled at the waist by one of the intruders while Dex wrestled with another. She lunged, reaching back down to grab Cyrus's hand, but suddenly Dex was beside her, clambering up. The moment felt surreal as they pulled Cyrus free. But they weren't safe yet. The dark figures were close now, and gunshots rang out, sharp and deafening. Alice, move, Dex shouted, urgency bleeding into his voice. They turned and bolted across the roof, the danger barely matching the thumping of their hearts. Their bodies surged forward, scrambling toward the edge. No! Cyrus's cry stopped her cold, but there was no time for explanations. They were being herded toward the danger. An unending chase that could lead to their capture or worse. What's going on? She gasped, but there was no reply. They reached the edge, eyes scanning the drop-off. The alley below was narrow, slick with rain and debris. On three, Cyrus shouted. 1, 2, 3. They jumped, falling into the suffocating darkness below. The impact jarred Alice's bones, but they stumbled back to their feet, adrenaline kicking in. They sprinted again, darting into another alley to lose themselves in the shadows. Each corner seemed to echo with the fear that dogged their heels, but deep inside, a chilling realization spread through her. They were not just running from the hunt. They were running toward answers, revelations that could alter their lives forever. They turned a corner, hearts pounding, and Alice found her voice, laced with determination. We have to find out what's really going on. We can't just keep running. But as the sound of footsteps echoed behind them, Alice wondered if she could survive the truth that awaited. They ducked into the shadows of another alley, breathless and wide-eyed. The sounds of pursuit echoed like a heartbeat, relentless and all-consuming. Alice pressed her back against the cold brick, willing her racing mind to focus. What do we do now? She whispered, her voice trembling. Cyrus shook his head, glancing around as if searching for an escape. We need to find somewhere to hide, somewhere safe to regroup. Safe? Dex breathed, staring toward the mouth of the alleyway. With them hunting us? There is no safe. Alice could see the panic creeping into his expression, and it made her throat tighten. They were on the brink of collapsing under the weight of fear. We can't give up. We have to. A sudden shout rang out, harsh and commanding. They went this way. Search the alleys. The dark figures were close, their voices slicing through the biting night air. They scrambled deeper into the recess of the alley, a messy tangle of discarded crates and garbage. The stench was overwhelming, but it was better than the sight of masked figures prowling the streets. Over there. Cyrus pointed toward a nearby doorway, partially ajar and seemingly forgotten. A flicker of hope ignited in Alice's chest. They dashed toward it, slipping through the narrow opening, hearts racing in tandem with their steps. Inside was dark, save for the faint glow of a flickering bulb overhead. It was an old storage room, dust motes swirling in the stale air. The door creaked shut behind them, sealing out the nightmarish outside world. For a moment they paused, listening to the sounds of their own heavy breathing. Dex pressed his ear to the door. They must have passed us, he murmured, relief washing over him. Just for a moment, Alice said, though her voice wavered. We don't have long. We need a plan. She felt the pressure of their situation crushing down. Time was running thin. What if we just wait? Dex suggested, rubbing the back of his neck. If they think we're gone, maybe they'll leave. No, Cyrus said firmly. We can't wait. We'll end up cornered. We need to find out who they are and what they want. Alice nodded, feeling the fire of determination spark within her again. We have to do more than just run. There's a reason they're after us and we can't keep avoiding it. As if sensing her conviction, Cyrus reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device, his phone, albeit cracked. I managed to charge this during our chase. I think I can get a signal, maybe reach out to someone who can help. Hope flickered, but Alice's heart hardened at the thought. What if they're watching us? What if they can trace us? Didn't you say we were running toward answers? Cyrus challenged, placing the phone down. Fingers hovering over the screen conflicted. Nothing stood still. Time was a ticking bomb, and the urgency clawed at her. You're right, she said, trying to drown out her growing unease. But whoever they are, whatever this is, could be more dangerous than we realize. A loud crash broke through the silence. Dex spun around, eyes wide. They're coming. We need to move. Cyrus's hand shot out to grab the phone. Let us go. We'll find a place to regroup and figure out how to confront this madness. Heart pounding, they dashed through the storage room and out the back door. The cool night air hit her like a cold slap, and the dark streets stretched out before them once again, harboring secrets, threats, and answers. But one question haunted Alice. What truths lay ahead and at what cost? As they pressed on, voices creeping up again in the distance, one thought loomed larger than the rest. Sometimes the truth isn't just dangerous. It can be deadly. The alley widened, revealing a desolate street where shattered glass reflected the dim light of a flickering street lamp. They paused, searching for a split second of silence, but it escaped them like smoke in the wind. Alice was acutely aware of the pulse of their fear echoing off the walls surrounding them. Do you think they saw us? Dex gasped, breath catching as he leaned against a rusted dumpster. I can't stay here, Cyrus muttered, scanning the street. We need to move up. Dex hesitated, the weight of indecision pulling at him. But before he could voice his fear, another crash rang out from the alley they had just left. Go, Alice urged, and they broke into a run, hearts thumping violently in their chests. They skirted around a corner, adrenaline propelling them forward as shadows flickered behind them. They reached a chain-link fence, and without thinking, Cyrus clambered over it first, followed by Alice and then Dex, who stumbled and nearly fell. The danger was too close. They landed on solid ground, a deserted parking lot strewn with old tires and abandoned cars. The night air was thick with tension, making it hard to breathe. Where do we hide? Dex panted, glancing back toward the alley. Those cars. Alice pointed to a row of rusted vehicles, their once vibrant colors muted under years of neglect. They moved quickly, darting behind a dilapidated sedan, its windows boarded up as they crouched low, trying to blend into the shadows. Voices echoed again, closer now. I swear they went this way. One of the pursuers shouted, panic lacing his voice. Alice's skin crawled at the thought of being caught, her stomach twisting with dread. Cyrus pulled out the phone again, squinting at the screen. No signal, he murmured, frustration etched across his features. Is there a way to get to the safe house? Safe house? Dex whispered, eyes wide. Where? Do you even know where to go? Somewhere, anywhere we can plan, Cyrus replied, desperation creeping into his voice. Fear threatened to shatter their fragile resolve, but Alice's mind raced. There had to be something they were missing. What if she began, her voice low but urgent? What if we set a trap? They want us, so let us give them a reason to come after us where we have the advantage. Cyrus exchanged a glance with Dex, both of them contemplating the risky notion. It was reckless, maybe even insane, but the thought of playing a victim in a predator-esque game made her heart race with resolve. If they want us, let us make sure they know we're not easy prey. Okay, but how? Dex asked, deathly quiet as he kept watch. Alice's mind was on fire, drawing from every shred of instinct and desperation she felt. We lure them to the old warehouse down the block. It's abandoned, and we can use the shadows to our advantage. But we'll need something. Suddenly an idea kicked in. She noticed an old empty bottle in the debris nearby. She picked it up, a spark igniting her creativity. Sound. We use noise to mislead them. We want to use the phone they'll be watching. Instead, we set traps when they're close. It will make them think we're in one place while we hide out somewhere else. Cyrus looked impressed, nodding slowly. Could work. We have to act fast, Dex added, urgency sharpening his tone as they began to formulate their chaotic plan. Each moment felt like a ticking time bomb. The vulnerability of the world around them was suffocating. Steeling themselves, they set to work, adrenaline fueling their movements. But as they prepared for their precarious counterstrike, the echoes of the approaching figures drew closer. An ominous laugh split the night air. You can't run forever, we know you're here. Alice's heart dropped as dread washed over her. The danger was alive, breathing down their necks, and so was the reality that they were being hunted. Get ready, Cyrus murmured, the seriousness in his voice cutting through the chaos. They had to in that moment. Alice realized the undeniable truth. The real hunt was just beginning, and its outcome hinged on their next move. But would they escape the jaws of darker intentions, or would they reveal their own secrets too late? As they braced themselves, the door to the old warehouse creaked ominously in the wind, the tension palpable. The clock was ticking and they were running out of time. The echo of footsteps grew sharper, wrapping around the parking lot like a tightening noose. Alice felt her pulse racing in tandem with the sounds of her pursuers, each footfall hammering with insistent urgency. They were close. The ominous laughter tugged at the edges of her sanity. How could they be taunting them? It was as if the darkness itself was aware of their fear and relishing it. Get to the warehouse, she hissed, refusing to let panic cloud her voice, even as dread churned in her stomach. Cyrus nodded, eyes wide but focused. They sprinted across the littered expanse, weaving between the cars like a fast-paced dance with danger. The rusting hulk of an old pickup loomed larger as they approached the warehouse entrance, a heavy metal door listing at a crooked angle as if inviting them to step inside. Dex glanced back just as they reached the threshold, his expression a mixture of dread and determination. They're right behind us. Hurry. They skidded inside, letting the door slam shut with a resonating thud that echoed ominously through the empty space. The darkness enveloped them. They turned just in time to see shadows shifting outside, their pursuers way too close for comfort. "All right, now what?" Dex whispered as he searched the dim interior, trying to identify spots that could serve as a hideout or a launchpad for their trap. Dust hung thick in the air, settling like a shroud, and the musty smell of decay filled Alice's nostrils, making her gag. Cyrus rushed toward a half-broken beam, extending his arm for the others to join him. "We make noise," he murmured, fingers trembling with anticipation. "We have to hold their attention while we take cover somewhere else." Alice rummaged through a pile of debris, her fingers brushing over various forgotten items, until she spotted something glimmering. A rusted metal canister, its surface stained with age. She let out a shaky breath before lifting it with a sense of purpose. "This. I can throw it to create a noise. But where?" Dex asked, his eyes darting from one shadow to the next, searching for anything they could utilize. "The back corner. It's the farthest from us," Alice suggested, determination igniting her spirit. She glanced around furtively. "When they move to investigate, we slip around to the other side and find our way out the back door." As they crouched in the corner, listening intently, the voices outside turned frantic. One shouted, "They can't have gone far. Check that side." Another growled, "They must be hiding in there. Don't let them escape." Without waiting for another heartbeat, Alice hurled the canister towards the designated corner, the sound of clanging metal slicing through the stillness. It crashed to the ground loudly, an agonizing reminder of their peril. The immediate silence that followed felt suffocating. "Go," Cyrus urged, and they bolted toward the back of the warehouse, adrenaline pulsing through their veins like wildfire. They moved like shadows, flowing seamlessly through the darkness as they pressed against the wall, hoping for a miracle. Suddenly, a weighty thud hit the door they had entered from. Someone was trying to force it open. "Move," Dex hissed, pushing through the darkness toward a faint light that flickered at the far side. It led to an exit door, promising an escape if they could just get there in time. But the thrill of hope was dampened as they heard their pursuers shatter the entryway with a wooden splintering sound. The scent of danger hung heavy in the air, a tangible reminder of how close they were to capture. Alice felt trapped between despair and determination, but the flicker of hope ignited a fierce resolve within her. "We can't give up. Keep moving." They prepared to push open the door, but a new sound filled the air, chilling their blood. It was a soft, mocking chuckle rising in the heavy atmosphere. "Did you really think you could outrun us?" The voice was slick and confident, the kind that made your skin prickle. The door cracked open just slightly, and in that moment, they caught a glimpse of a figure, its eyes alight with malicious intent. Their pursuers had found them, and it was only the beginning. "Run!" Alice screamed as the shadows surged forward from all sides. The frantic energy surged in their limbs as they bolted again. The chase wasn't over, and the danger was more real than ever. They had to escape, but where could they go with the night closing in around them? With the laughter echoing behind them, precious seconds were slipping away. The real nightmare lay ahead. Would they be able to forge a path to safety, or had they unknowingly walked into a trap far worse than they ever imagined? Alice felt her heart racing, a wild drumbeat echoing the panic swirling in her chest. The darkness of the warehouse surrounded them like an abyss, each shadow stretching menacingly closer. They had just broken free of the ominous figures pursuing them, but the danger was still palpable. "Can we barricade the door?" Dex shouted, glancing toward the entrance, a mixture of fear and determination in his eyes. "No time," Cyrus replied sharply, scanning the room for any possible escape route. "If we don't keep moving, we're dead for sure." Alice felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. They needed her ideas, her courage more than ever. "Follow me," she urged. Leading them into a narrow corridor she spotted to the back of the room. The sound of their footsteps echoed, a constant reminder of their impending doom. They pushed through, adrenaline guiding their every action. With rapid breaths they turned corner after corner until they reached a small window high above a stack of rotting crates. "I can make it," Alice said, her voice steady, even as fear danced in her chest. "Get me up." Cyrus and Dex hoisted her up, and she reached for the ledge. Stretching herself upward, she glimpsed the night sky beyond. A glimmer of hope shone through the darkness. With a final push, she disentangled herself from their grasp, scrambling onto the roof with desperation. But before she could catch her breath, the sound of shattering would smash through the air from behind her. "They're in!" she shouted over her shoulder. "Hurry!" Cyrus and Dex climbed with urgency, and they tumbled onto the gritty surface together, straining to catch their breath beneath the veil of stars. But beneath the beauty of the night sky loomed a shadow of despair. They were still running. "Look!" Dex pointed, a sliver of determination gleaming in his eyes. Below, the warehouse stretched like a black hole below their feet, an ominous reminder of the danger they left behind. "Let us head toward that roof over there," Cyrus suggested, directing their gaze to a neighboring building. They need to leap, but Alice took a moment. "What if they follow?" "They will," Cyrus said, urgency bleeding through his words. "We need to stay ahead of them, we can't let them corner us." Alice nodded. With faith in the bond they'd forged during this chaos, she took a deep breath and propelled herself forward, landing ungracefully on the adjacent roof. Cyrus followed immediately, but Dex hesitated, glancing nervously back at the warehouse. "Go. Now," Alice urged, her heart pounding for him. He took one last look before racing toward the edge. He jumped, colliding with the roof beside them, the three of them painting a wild path as they raced toward the unseen. Behind them, a shout echoed through the night, a call from the assailants, and Alice felt the urgency grip her heart even tighter. They had to act fast. Panic buzzed in the air around them as they navigated the rooftops, slippery and narrow. They could see the outlines of their pursuers moving below, dark shadows against the broken landscape of the city. Just when all seemed lost, a new sight caught Alice's eye. "Over there! The fire escape!" she shouted, pointing to a rusting metal ladder dangling precariously at the end of the building. They sprinted toward it, leaping over gaps and debris, a wild dance fueled by desperation. Cyrus reached for the rungs first, climbing with urgency. "We have to get to the ground," he yelled, his voice echoing through the night. Dex followed just behind, and Alice scrambled up, her fingers gripping the cool metal tightly. The city loomed below like a monster, its sprawling roads a beckoning promise of safety. They landed in the alley beneath the fire escape, breathless and wide-eyed, the palpable danger still lurking. But they were free from the echo of darkness for now. "Where next?" Dex gasped, casting worried glances down the alley. "We need to find a safe place to lay low," Cyrus replied, urgency tinging his voice. "A friend of mine has a hideout not too far from here. If we can get to him, we might have a shot at figuring this all out." Alice nodded, despite the gnawing fear still gripping her heart. They moved quickly, shadows blending with shadows as they darted through the back streets. Her mind whirled with what lay ahead, and with every step, she felt a mix of dread and determination. Their resolve was newly forged in fire, but at what cost? Would they discover the truth behind the conspiracy? Would they uncover the secrets and survive the hunt? This was only the beginning. The fight for their lives led them into a deeper web of intrigue, a world intertwined with darkness and despair, but also a spark of hope. In that harrowing instant, Alice felt more certain of her choices than ever before. They would not be pawns or victims, they would seize control. As they pressed onward, ready for the challenges ahead, each individual step felt like reclaiming their agency from the darkness that sought to ensnare them. This was their moment, a testament to their strength and unity against chaos. But they needed to remain vigilant. The truth awaited them, lurking just beyond the shadows, and nothing would remain the same after this night. The battle had just begun now. You need to subscribe immediately, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash the like button now because it really feeds the algorithm. Flood the comments below with your reactions and theories about this intense conclusion. And don't wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Let's connect and ignite the conversation.